Multiple major moves are coming for this Milwaukee Brewers team. So things have already started and major changes are on the horizon, including Freddy Peralta, who is already in the midst of trade reports one day after exiting the NLCS. We're going to be breaking it down, going over what this means going forward, as well as for a guy like Jacob Misiorowski, what it means for his future contract and what the result would be in a Freddy Peralta trade. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to break down here in today's video, and I just want to say a very quick thank you to all of your guys' support throughout this season, but we're not stopping anytime soon. We're still getting daily videos out going over what the Milwaukee Brewers offseason plans are. Every single report that drops, you're going to expect a video here, so don't miss a beat by hitting the sub button. Join me here on the channel. Like I said, we have a lot to cover here throughout this offseason, so we get back to the NLCS and then the World Series next season. But let's jump straight into this, and I want to start out first with the tweet that we have here from Just Baseball, coming out from an Athletic article, but all, kind of trickling down the MLB media sources. And the Brewers are planning to take offers on Freddy Peralta this offseason, per by McLeod. Peralta has a club option for 1 year, $8 million in this upcoming 2026 season, and is a free agent in 2028. Now, this is already something that we kind of expected would come out, especially knowing what this Brewers team is, such a small market team. We expected a lot of teams to have their name out there with Freddy Peralta. However, with the stuff that we've seen, with everything that's been coming out, this may not be such a good idea, and I'm going to break down here in this video why. And I think the first reason that is pretty obvious is having Freddy Peralta on an $8 million deal is an absolute steal. And we're going to jump into his market price and everything here now in a few moments. But going into this upcoming offseason, the Brewers are going to be a team that I think, for a very interesting kind of option here, are going to look to add. Now, not any of these big name free agents. We know that's not really the Brewers' MO, but when it comes down to looking at this team, they're going to have a very similar team to next year. Of course, with a few changes coming on the pitching already, which we know of, which is going to be Quinn Priester going to be taking an elevated role. Now going to see Jose Quintana and likely Brandon Woodruff potentially going elsewhere in free agency. But going into it now, we're going to have a very young rotation. Having Freddy Peralta as one of the oldest guys on one of the better contracts here gives the Brewers another option to go out here and buy for this upcoming season. So keep that in mind when we go through all of this. Now, I'm not going to read all of this right here, but this kind of goes over the reasoning that you may see a trade for Freddy Peralta, saying much like Adames, he means too much to the roster. And after Dansby Swanson signed his 7-year, $177 million contract with the Cubs in 2023, the Brewers lost hope of inking Adames to a long-term extension. There's, of course, chatter about a Burns deal, whatever's going to happen there. It depends on what is going to happen elsewhere across the MLB, which could reset the market for Freddy Peralta. And from what we've seen already from him in this most recent season, he's been a player and a pitcher that has jumped up in this value quite a bit. And going over what we saw from him on the mound and how things really gone through the season, you can kind of put his evaluation along with that. He's gotten better and better and better up until about October, where in the postseason, his fastball was getting hit pretty hard. Teams were picking up on it, and he wasn't as good as he was in the regular season, but still held his own in this postseason and gave us opportunities to win. So this Brewers team has that value there for Freddy Peralta, but we see across the MLB, if you see a guy like Dylan Cease, who is a free agent this upcoming season, if he gets an absurd deal, the Brewers may be out on Freddy Peralta with what the market value and what the price tag may be for him. So I don't necessarily hate the idea of fielding trade calls right now, especially because you don't have to accept any of them. That's just putting out that they're going to listen to some, they're going to hear out what other teams have to say and kind of get a value there, but that don't mean he is going to be traded, which I think is a very positive thing coming from this Brewers team at this point. Now, Freddy Peralta also did speak out after yesterday's game, and he coming out and saying, "I've been here forever, and I love this. I love the city of Milwaukee, the team, everyone here. And that's coming from the bottom of my heart. At the end of the day, I understand this is a business and anything can happen." And unfortunately to me, what Freddy Peralta really has to see, and I kind of picked this up as, hey, I know the Brewers are not really willing to pay people too much money in this small market team, but I love it here, and it will all depend on it. So, I hope that's not what he really implied here, but this is what I did pick up, and I want to know what you guys think here in the comments below about his quote there after the game yesterday against the Dodgers. And I'm not going to jump into that game here in this video. I mean, we had to take a little while to evaluate. I didn't do a video post-game. I didn't do one earlier this morning, but Chourio Ohtani, that team over there with the Dodgers, they know that they're one of the best teams, if not the best team in the MLB. And, Ohtani showed why. He is probably the best pitcher and MLB player of all time already. So, congratulations to them. Credit where credit is due. The Brewers couldn't get anything going. The offense couldn't get anything going, but it just goes to show how good that team is. But going to Freddy Peralta once again, this is a guy that if they actually do want a chance of beating a team like the Dodgers come a postseason in a couple years' time against a team that is spending so much money on these players, Freddy Peralta will be the guy that will be able to do it. We've seen it from him this season. We've seen it from him in the postseason. He's a guy that you need to have on your team. If you lock him up, it makes a lot of sense why this team would want to get out there and do these types of things. Now, going into how this free agent market is lining up, you see, of the pitchers this season, now Freddy Peralta, once again, not a free agent this season, has a club option. Assuming he does not get traded, you're going to pick that up for $8 million. But you're looking at his stats compared to some of the top free agents this year. I mean, Dylan Cease, Zach Gallen, and Framber Valdez all have, very similar ERAs. Zach Gallen and Dylan Cease actually higher ERAs, with Michael King being a lower ERA. But Freddy Peralta's stats are very comparable, and if not better, the majority of what we're seeing here for the most part of these free agents. So we're going to have to keep a close eye on what a guy like Dylan Cease, Michael King, and Framber Valdez, and Zach Gallen as well. I guess we could put all of them in that list of what they're going to get in free agency to be able to assume what Freddy Peralta's value will be in the market, but also via trade. And, especially where the trades now are the most evident thing. There are going to be teams and some of these big teams across the MLB that just love spending money. They're going to be after Freddy Peralta regardless of what's going to happen. So this is something I think we have to really keep a close eye on. And especially when we're looking at the pitching now over the next couple of seasons. Of course, Freddy Peralta is the ace. You see Brandon Woodruff in the second, Jose Quintana in the fifth starter slot. Those two likely gone. I would love to see Brandon Woodruff back. I think there's going to be a lot of teams pushing for him as a late starter here on their rotation. But having him on this team once again will be awesome. But next season, you're looking at a guy like Quint Priester, Jacob Misiorowski back on the mound, likely to start this season next year, and maybe Logan Henderson and Chad Patrick as well could be some options. But going into them in the bullpen, you're going to have a very similar outlook. You're going to want to try and get better on this front, but with limited money. And I mean, having Freddy Peralta here on that $8 million $8 million salary, for a team that is still so close to a World Series, they can't really afford to go out and lose a guy like Freddy Peralta in a trade that they do not win, unless it's an absolute steal of a trade, even if it is just a close trade. I am still very hesitant to make the deal, especially if it's for prospects or whatnot, because of how good this team is. The team is young. The team is very good, but this team knows that they have some time to do it. We've seen Christian Yelich come out and say, we're going to do it over the next couple of years. This team has been so close getting to this step here, getting to the step last year. It is only a matter of time that once a few things get going, once this team continues to click, and regardless if they have the best record in the MLB, they're going to be a team that are going to be around this slot for years to come, and Freddy Peralta will be a big piece of that. Now, as you see here when it comes down to the starting rotation next season and where Freddy Peralta really does stand, he's going to be filling a few holes that Jose Quintana and Brandon Woodruff have, but you have a guy like Jacob Misiorowski, Robert Gasser, Logan Henderson, and Chad Patrick could round out that rotation. You don't really want to have to rely on those young players to do it without a guy like Freddy Peralta, or without going to get a guy, some of the older players who are on the free agent market here. I mean, just looking at the market, we do have a few older players. Jordan Montgomery, this would be interesting to see if he actually does end up signing with the Brewers as well as a starter. We know we got him in that trade for Shelby Miller, who ultimately did leave this season with, Tommy John surgery, will miss likely all of next season as well. But it would be interesting to see if Jordan Montgomery goes. But as you see down the list here, you're getting market values for a guy like Framber Valdez at $33 million. You're going down a little bit to a guy like Zach Gallen, $18 million. Dylan Cease, $26 million. And when you're putting that in comparison to what Freddy Peralta has done, you see so much positive on a Savant page. A lot of red, very little blue, and then going to a $30 million average AAV for his, upcoming next contract. Getting him at 8 is an absolute steal. You're getting a guy at that for one more season. You want to extend him. I think that's going to be something for a later date, but when it comes down to how this is going to impact these younger guys, you need someone to help them get into that starting role, whether or not you end up keeping him around, Freddy Peralta around for this upcoming, not next season, but the season after when he is a free agent. The Brewers are making, some big gambles here. But like I said, I don't mind them fielding trade calls, But when it comes down to actually making said trade, I think they need to be in a major position to win that deal to even consider accepting it. And I want to know what you guys think here in the comments below, but that is all I have in this video. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate all your support throughout this season. Like I said as well, we have no signs of slowing down. Daily videos still going to be out here surrounding the Milwaukee Brewers. We have a lot of content coming through the remainder of the postseason, and once everybody starts to speak out, we're going to touch on the game and what we just saw a little bit when we actually do get the season-ending press conference for this team. We're going to have a lot to touch on, but we have a lot of stuff as well. Rumors, reports coming out about the future of this Milwaukee Brewers team, the moves that they are going to make, and we're going to have it all right here every single day. You won't want to miss it. But like I said, let me know in the comments below what you think about today's video. Freddy Peralta, the reports about the trade, let me know in the comments below. But that is all I have in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. I'm signing out, though. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.